I'm Jack Stafford, and I interview inspiring people in service to others as inspiration for new songs. Today, I'm going to speak with an expert in social media. I took one of his courses and found it very useful, so I'm taking this opportunity to say thank you. Besides me, his other famous clients have included Taylor Swift and Rihanna. His last book, 1 Million Followers, was about how he generated 1 million social media followers in less than 30 days. Let's hear from Brendan Kane.
Sorry about all the back and forth. My schedule is just insane right now.
No problem. Well, launching with a new book, it must be full on.
That it is.
So how's it going? Did you get a good reaction?
Yeah, it's like the way that I do it is like I spent 2 years building like a whole engine to market books. So it's like, for example, in my first book is like we're selling more books today than we did when we first launched. So it's like we've just been getting the engine up and running and scaling. And we really don't get, let me say the response has been positive thus far, but we don't really get a really good sense until we put about 30,000 to 50,000 copies into the market. And then at that stage, we really see the response and the amplification efforts really take off from there.
Yeah, I've noticed more and more people are selling. You can sell a book for 3 times the price if you sell it via advertising direct to the consumer on Facebook or Instagram now.
I don't really care about the price that people pay. I care about the fact that I now own the relationship with the consumer. Because if somebody buys from Amazon or a retail store, which we sell because that consumers want to buy from those retailers, and our efforts actually amplify the sales on all those channels. But if somebody buys on Amazon, I have no idea who they are. I have no way to communicate with them. I have no way to connect with them further versus if we sell direct to consumer and we own that data of the person, then we can communicate and foster the relationship over the long term.
Yeah, I remember when I bought your first book, 1 Million Followers, I was kind of in the funnel, I think you even gave it away free, or you gave it away like...
Yeah, probably free shipping, and you just pay the shipping of it.
Yeah. And then, well, I got the Kindle version, and then, and then I followed you. That's also why I'm doing this call, is to say thank you, because you really going on that course opened my eyes a lot, and being part of your Facebook group really helped me to understand how to communicate and to develop into where I am now.
I appreciate it. It's good to hear people recognizing the larger work that we're trying to do with people. People are just brought in with the concept of followers. And yes, we teach those tactics, but really that hook is designed to bring people in to teach them what they really need to know in order to be successful. And that's really what I want to do. It's not, hey, we can teach you followers all day long, but if you don't understand the underlying principles of what makes you successful in business, what makes you successful online, then it's not really going to translate or mean much over the long term.
Yeah, I guess it's a great example that hook points work, is that you had this 1 million followers in 30 days.
Yeah, and it was all designed for that purpose of a hook to bring them into the larger conversation. Because if the hook was, how to A/B test in social media, or the proper mindset for being successful in social media, or how to even like create shareable content, it wouldn't resonate. They wouldn't bring in, sure, we would have sold books, but not at the level that we have. And we wouldn't have had the impact that we really set out to do with the information in the book.
I already did an interview with Tom Schwab, who you introduced me to, the podcast agent, and he said that what is ordinary to you is amazing to other people. So do you think that because you worked for all these big brands and you were using this Facebook advertising tool to get likes and nobody knew about that, but do you think that was like ordinary to you, but you could harness it?
Well, I would say that a lot of the stuff that I teach and I speak about, it's nothing that I invented.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of found these strategies, dissected them into the simplest form, and then figured out how to scale them. And then when I figure out how to scale them, then I can teach it to other people. And this is like why I'm doing hook points and helping people in that capacity, is oftentimes what I see is that things come so naturally to the brilliant people, to the successful people. And because it becomes so easy to them, it's very hard for them to articulate it into a simple and easy to understand model to follow, or formula to follow, or just even like wrap their head around it. And that's what I've just learned over the course of my career, is that's where I excel, because I'm not a genius. Like, I don't pick stuff up super easy. Like, it takes me time to really wrap my head around things, and I have to distill it down into its simplest form so I can understand it. And that's what gives me the ability to A, simplify it, B, scale it, and then C, teach it. And that's really what I do. So any of the principles, and it's like this in anything, there's very few things of anything that are truly innovative. Mostly everything has been done, everything's been said. It's just how you contextualize it in a meaningful way. And you know this, being in entertainment, you see it in music, you see it in movies, is they all follow a similar formula. Like, especially the movie industry, they're all using the same character arcs and characters. It's just they express them in different ways. Now, does that dilute the brilliance of it? Absolutely not. Like, I'm not saying that there's no innovation in the way that they contextualize characters or even songs or melodies or any of those things, but it is understanding those formulas and then making them your own.
I just heard you talking about Pixar on another podcast, and you saying how they use these 5 personalities. Is it right to incorporate in every character? So there's one character that everyone can relate to.
Yeah, so Pixar uses what's called the process communication model, and it's ingrained in our consulting firm. And we even hired one of the few master trainers in the world who was running a school for James Cameron that was all taught. All the teachers at the school were taught in this model, and they teach the students. And essentially, Pixar uses it, NASA uses it, Bill Clinton uses it, Audi, to really connect at scale. And what it really expresses is that people perceive the world in different ways, and they almost speak different languages within the language. So there's people that perceive the world through thoughts and logic. So things have to make sense to them. It's like they want to see the data, the facts. There's people that perceive the world through feelings and emotions. They don't really care about the logic or if it makes sense. They want to know, how is this going to make me feel? Then there's people that perceive the world through values and opinions. They want to hear your opinions. They want to know, do I believe in this person? Do I believe in this character? Do I want to believe in this brand? Then there's people that perceive the world through humor and fun. Like, they just care, is this going to be fun? Is this exciting? Is this awesome? Then there's people that perceive the world through actions. And it's like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. What is he always doing? He's running. He's not stopping and thinking. He's not feeling. He's just going. He's just moving. And then the last one is kind of inactions, people that reflect on the world. So it's like the Albert Einsteins of the world, where they're staring off into space and they're just reflecting on the things that happen around them. So what Pixar does that's so brilliantly is they make sure to design a character that speaks to each one of those types. So that no matter how you perceive the world, when you sit down in front of a Pixar movie, there's a character that you can connect with, that you can relate to. And that's why we've ingrained it in everything that we do with the work in our books, our marketing materials, but also with our clients, is making sure that when we're helping them stand out and grow, is contextualizing their message in a way that everybody can resonate, everybody can connect with it. Because the biggest mistake people are making is they're designing content for themselves. They're designing content for how they perceive the world. So for me, if I perceive the world through thoughts and logic, and I'm not well versed in this framework and model, I'm just going to talk to people that perceive the world through thoughts and logic with data and facts. And I could alienate 75% of the population by only communicating with that language. But knowing that that's my strength, if I now start contextualizing my message and content with some feelings, emotion, with some fun and humor, through some actions, then I'm diversifying my message in a way that everybody can resonate with. Now, that's not to say that we're changing the message. We're not changing who people are or what they represent. We're just contextualizing and changing certain words, or the way that the information, or the way that the sentences are structured, or the way that the dialogue is structured, or the way that we're communicating, to make sure that we can bring in the widest audience possible.
So because you worked with like Taylor Swift and Rihanna, and so you wouldn't change them. You wouldn't. It's just
No, we never change who somebody is. I mean, typically we don't work with clients that don't already have a product market fit. I mean, we can. I help people come up with directions, but most of the time we're dealing with people that have a product market fit, and they're just figuring out, how do I scale, or how do I just take it to the next level. So we never change who they are. We just change how they contextually present that to the world.
So like, probably not, I don't know, I think many people listening to this podcast even have a brand or a company, but if they just want them to, if they want their posts to be seen, to be raised more, how would they go about doing that? I mean,
well, this can be used for anything. Like, this isn't just online or social. This can be used to get a job. This can be used to get a promotion. This can be used to close a consulting client. So where does it start? The first place it starts is grabbing attention. And that's why I spent 2 years just putting together all this information in the Hook Point book, is because in the world that we live in today, there's 60 billion messages sent out on digital platforms each day. And because of that, you're no longer competing against your just direct competition. You're competing against every piece of content that's published each day. You're, like it or not, you're competing against Netflix. You're competing against The Rock. You're competing against Kevin Hart and all these people. So first and foremost, your job, whether it's online or offline, is just to get somebody to stop and listen to what you have to say. So just an example, I'm sure this has happened to you. It happens to me less now because I put my phone on silent and I don't pick up any numbers that I've never, that are not sort of my phone. But when a telemarketer calls, you know it's a telemarketer. And the minute you know it's a telemarketer, what do? You hang up the phone or just say, I'm not interested. You don't even get to the part. Maybe he has the most amazing thing that he wants to share with you, but it just turns you off. You never get to what they're talking about. And it's the same thing with social content or any type of conversation. Is if you cannot get them to stop and pay attention to the first 3 to 5 seconds, you'll never get to the story. You'll never get to the message. You'll never get to the song. You'll never get to the movie. Like, if you look at, for example, just to demonstrate how much this is needed, if you look at the movie studios today and watch a trailer on social media, what do? They have a 3 to 5 second trailer that plays before the actual trailer. So if you watch like a Mission Impossible trailer, they'll have 3 to 5 seconds of just explosions and noise and things just to get you to stop. And then they play the trailer of the story and what it's about. Now, if a company that spends hundreds of millions of dollars producing a piece of content has to do it, then you just know it's something that you have to do for your own brand, your own business. And then once you have the attention, you have to retain it. So that's where we talk about that context and the process communication model is, how do we craft a story? How do we craft a piece of content that connects with the widest audience possible? Because we're not talking about clickbait here. We're not talking about how do we just get somebody to stop and then we mislead them with another piece of content. It's how do we carry that through line? How do we tell a compelling story? Because all the algorithms in social media are predicated on 2 things. 1, when people are scrolling through the feeds, do they stop? And 2, when they stop, how long do they stay with that piece of content? And that is fundamentally the ingredients of success. Is do you get somebody to stop, and how long do they spend with the piece of content? If you do that, you'll be successful. Now, it's very simple in those 2 steps, but it's not necessarily easy to do. As we've worked in our private group with you, and just all the science that goes beyond that. But people are up in arms about the algorithms, saying, oh, the algorithms are constantly changing. The algorithms are there to get me to pay. Do I have frustrations with the algorithms? Absolutely. But I know that what their job is, and they have a very difficult job. Because if you open up Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or whatever platform you're on, there's probably 1,000 pieces of content it could seed to you based upon all the content you've engaged with and all of the accounts that you've followed. So obviously it can't push 1,000 pieces of content to you when you open it up, because that would be super overwhelming and daunting. So you have to prioritize. So the algorithms say, okay, these are the 10 or 15 posts that I believe are going to A, get somebody to stop, and B, keep them on the platform longer, because that's how these platforms win. That's how these platforms generate profit. Is the longer you spend on it, the more ads they can serve you. So that's really fundamentally is at the core of where to start, is to understand those two principles.
That's important, yeah, because I thought a lot of people do that. Once you get someone to like your page or like you on Instagram, they're going to see your stuff straight away. But yeah, when I think how many pages I like on social media, I'd have to be a full-time job if I was going to see every update all the time. No?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I definitely used it. I had 3,000 page likes on my Facebook when I started, on my music page when I started, and then I used your technique. I got the likes for about 1 cent each, using quotes as you taught, and I got up to 50,000 really quickly. So I think I spent about $500 or something. But that really helped to get people to do a podcast interview with me. They go on to my social media and they see how my potential audience. So,
and that's your hook.
Yeah, that's
gets people to pay attention.
But you're still saying that's like a misnomer, because I've also looked with some guests, and I looked at some guests and they had like on their website, I have 1 million followers, and you look on Facebook and they have 1 million, and then you look on their Twitter and they have about 3, So and all their posts are getting hardly any interaction. So you can tell they've just got these followers through advertising, but they don't really have an audience.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I work with clients that have amassed huge follower bases organically, and they still run into the same issue. And again, it's because the algorithms increasingly have a more difficult job to do. So when I look at an account that has high social following but low engagement, I know that is not because they bought fake followers or because they marketed their account, or that they are doing something nefarious. It's that they're not playing to what the algorithms are looking for. They're not getting to that level of being a content creator that plays to that. Now, there are some people that just have tremendous connection and brand that it just carries over into that. That's why you see like a huge celebrity like a Taylor Swift or The Rock or Kevin Hart that just have high engagement, because they have fostered such a deep emotional connection through the content they've released. But I hesitate to focus on those individuals, because they're a fraction of 1% of people on social media.
Right.
So I look at that larger goal. So I always preface that conversation of, if somebody has low engagement, I even if they marketed their account, I don't think it's that they did something necessarily wrong, because I see the same thing with people that have purely grown organically. It's just they got to get their content strategy in line with winning that attention and building that retention with their content.
So if somebody has like, millions of Instagram followers but hardly any Facebook or Twitter, that's not an alarm bell to you?
No, it's not, because I've seen it's very, very difficult to master multiple platforms. There's very few people that I've seen do it. I see some of the biggest YouTubers in the world that struggle to correlate it to Instagram or TikTok. But I will say I have seen examples, very few and far between. I could probably only think of a few names that master all platforms.
I saw your Twitter profile. You only had you haven't posted anything in 5 years, and you have like 77.
I just don't care about Twitter. It's just like, it's not my focus. Like
Yeah.
when I do something, I'm all in on it. Like I that's why you look at my social accounts. I probably posted one thing in like 3 months. It's because I'm super hyper focused on this other experiment that I'm running and growing something bigger. So,
But shouldn't it be that you post on one platform and it should get traction on all of them, or is it hyper specific?
it's hyper specific. Now, there's correlations between when you look at like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, their algorithms behave pretty similarly. So if you can make it, listen, if you can make it work on Facebook, it will generally cross over to Instagram and LinkedIn. And sometimes, Instagram's a little bit easier to generate reach than Facebook, but typically those three platforms are very similar in their consumer behavior and what the algorithms are looking for. YouTube's a completely different beast. When it comes to content, they're looking at much different variables. First and foremost, most of the traffic comes from suggested videos, so that thumbnail and headline become critically important. And two, it's a much more longer form consumption behavior platform. So where on Facebook or Instagram, if you can get somebody watch for 60 to 90 seconds, that's a huge win from a retention standpoint. YouTube, you gotta be in the minutes. They're looking at 7-8 minutes minimum to really trigger the algorithm that it's a piece of content that's retaining audience. Now, that's not to say that you can't find shorter clips that go viral on YouTube. You can, but just as a rule of thumb across the board.
I guess people use it like at different times as well. Like YouTube's maybe you're going there for long form. You deliberately want to sit there and you want to watch long content in the evening. You're winding down.
Yeah, it's consumption behavior. They've trained visitors when they're going to YouTube that you're going to be watching things for a longer period of time versus Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter. It's short bursts. Now, Facebook is trying to shift that behavior through like Facebook Live and IGTV and IG Live, but they're struggling to do that because once human behavior is ingrained into something, it's very difficult to shift it.
Yeah.
Not to say that they won't ever get there, but it's a difficult challenge to overcome.
So what's the next platform? Because you have like TikTok for when you're on the bathroom and YouTube when you're relaxing in the evening. Do these platforms like go for a time in the day, or what's going to be next?
Well, I would say my core focus is just on the core platforms. I don't see any of the core platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, going away anytime soon. If you're looking at what does the future of social media and social platforms really look like in the not so distant future, you've got to look at the hardware. The hardware dictates the software. So if you really want to understand what the future of social media is, you look at where the mobile device is going. How is that going to evolve over the next few years? Now, recently, and I don't keep up to date on really hardware news and where it's going, but even you just look at the new iPhone that came out, there's not really a drastic shift in it. Now, that doesn't mean the next iPhone or the next Samsung Galaxy can't completely transform it, but I haven't really heard or seen that happen yet. So that's really what is going to dictate a massive shift or a massive change. Is some people say, well, social media moves so quickly. It's like TikTok has been around for a long time. They were Musical.ly before. I don't even know how long they've been around, but I know it's at least 6 or 7 years. And some people may say 6 or 7 years is a short time period, depending on your age and your experience in business, but it's not like these platforms come up like overnight. It takes years to build that audience, and you can see the writing on the wall. And to me, it's just, people really underestimate the brilliance of the people at Facebook and the people at YouTube and these other platforms. They're really smart. They're not successful by luck, and they haven't maintained that audience and success by just guessing. Like, they're testing. They have behavioral scientists on board, and they're constantly refining and getting better and better and better with hooking people in. That's where it's like, Snapchat was on the rise for a while, and Facebook kept testing different iterations of what that could look like within their ecosystem. And then they came up with IG stories, and IG stories wasn't the first experiment that they ran, but they didn't give up. Now they're trying it again to take out TikTok. And, their first iteration of what that looks like is Reels. Is Reels the answer? Who knows? But they are testing and they are learning. And I believe that they will eventually figure it out.
So you think the demise of Facebook was too soon?
They've been saying that for 10 years. They keep equating it to like what happened with MySpace and Friendster.
Yeah.
And it's just a completely different ballgame. I mean, MySpace and Friendster paved the way and they did a remarkable job, but they are not close to operating on the same level as what Facebook has done and what they are doing.
Didn't you say they're operating like 50? There are like hundreds of different Facebooks all around the world.
They're always testing different variations all around the world. Remember when the whole thing about likes disappearing from Instagram? It came out because they were testing that concept in certain territories, and then people found out about it, and then it started spreading. But eventually, it hasn't taken shape for me, and I don't know if it's ever going to take shape, but that's, again, they engineer their success. They are not lucky. They just will out-test everybody, and that's why they're going to be around for a very long time.
Yeah, I guess they can hire the smartest people, and they certainly got the money, so... Yeah, I mean, well, I certainly learned so much doing your course. I started I was a self-help songwriter because I was doing my album of songs to help people with their mental problems, and then I was doing quote songs. So I tried to condense that down. I started singing all these short little quotes. I don't know if you remember, I shared those in the group.
Yep.
Yeah, and that. Yeah, it wasn't something Jesus would do, as a friend told me. It didn't really have any substance. So then I switched.
We don't know what Jesus would do, though, in today's world. It's very easy to say that statement, but we have no idea.
Is that a common one?
Well, people, there's that statement, what would Jesus do? And I think it's a good statement, but we have no idea what he would do in today's world.
Hopefully he'd have a podcast. That would make me feel better.
Yeah. Maybe he would have a TikTok account. You never know.
But it's like you say, you have to have that. You have to have substance. Everyone's looking for the sheen or the polish when they haven't actually got anything to polish.
But substance comes in very different forms. And there's different types of substance that people are looking for. It's like there's some people that substance to them is a cute cat video that makes them feel good at the end of the day. I would argue that's substance.
They are good though. Yeah, I do love those cat videos.
Yeah, I follow dog accounts. Like to me, it's like everything doesn't have to be serious. Everything doesn't have to be life transforming. Like, what is it to be a human being? It's to laugh, it's to cry, it's to experience, it's to fall in love. And if a quote at the end of the day brightens somebody's day, if it makes their day a little bit easier, to me, that is substance.
I thought it was a great idea. I was so convinced that was going to take off.
I still think it's a great idea. But again, it comes down to testing and being relentless in that pursuit of, figuring it out. Like I don't know if I use this reference in our work together, but Mark Ribier is a musician. Yeah, who's absolutely exploding right now. I mean, he's just everywhere, and everybody wants to collaborate with him. But I was listening to an interview with him. I think it was on the H3 podcast, and he said like he struggled for years. I don't remember. I think it was 2, 3, or 4 years where he just it wasn't working. And then all of a sudden he stumbled on this format that he's been ultra successful with. Is same with Prince EA, who wrote the foreword for my book. Is he started out as a rapper and he spent years trying to become a rapper. And I think he generated like 10 million views over a few years. And it just didn't really resonate with him. And he woke up one day and he's like, I'm going to stop rapping because I'm doing it for myself and for my ego. And I want to start just helping people and transforming people. And he shifted his format to more inspirational based content in like an urban poetry delivery, and then he generated 2 billion views in a few years. So it's like we always see these success stories, but we don't see the work behind them.
And the
that's
failures
where,
before, you know?
Yeah, and that's where it's like with my second edition of the 1 million followers book is I restructured the whole beginning to focus on mindset first, because people just give up too easily and they don't realize like the systems and the strategies are simple to follow, but they're not necessarily easy. It's like my friend who's one of the top creative directors told me that, completing an Ironman is very simple. You bike X number of miles, you swim X number of miles, you run X number of miles. But that doesn't mean it's easy to do. And it's like anything in life. And I think people really overlook that and just give up too easily on a direction because they don't immediately see the success.
I think all those failures teach you so much as well, because
if you allow them to teach you.
Yeah.
Most people look at a failure, they get so down, they don't look at what can I learn from it.
I think in your gut when something's really going to work, and then you really work at it, and then you make it a success because you put so much work into it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing 3 episodes a week of Podsongs now, so that's 3 songs a week. So that's an album every month of produced songs. So that's 144 songs a year and I'm trying to serve people. So I interview people who are serving others and have something to offer the world. And so I write songs about them. So it's constantly new material, it's constant inspiration for me as a songwriter, not to write songs about the things I've written for years before,
Yeah, definitely.
So I've got to write a song about hook point. Any ideas?
Well, the dedication to the book, and I firmly believe it, is that there's people all over the world that have the ability to transform it in a very positive way. It's just their message is not getting out there, either A, because it's being suppressed, whether it's by a government, religion, algorithms, or they just don't have the tools on how to market. So that's really why I'm putting that information out into the world, is I want to make sure it finds the people that have that ability to transform it. They just don't know how to get people to stop and pay attention to
exactly, because they all have, everyone that we have the smartphone that, you can make these adverts on or your content. Everyone now has all the equipment they'll ever need. I see even big companies, they use these. The CEO will just use a simple piece of camera.
Yeah, and I even talk to like our bigger clients, is they're oftentimes over engineering content. And just like people, when they open up Instagram or YouTube, they don't need to see a feature film. They don't need to see something that's highly polished. People don't really care. They care about what is the content? What does it represent? What is it teaching me? What can I learn about it? About watching this, or engage, or again, moving me on an emotional level. That's what people care about. That's why you see content on phones go super viral, as they connect with that.
You also did that in the group. There were some quite funny other students in the group. I know we shouldn't name any names, but some of them were their personalities now, and they all were selling their own individual products, and some of them were just terrible,
Yeah,
really were. And then you just had to get them to go back to basics, because they were all, they had a bad screen behind them, or funny lighting. Just go outside and do a piece to camera, and just say a good thing.
Yeah, obviously you don't want the production value to distract from your content, from your message, because like if the audio is often somebody can barely hear you or barely see you, unless that's a part of the story, it can detract from what you're trying to achieve with the content. So unless, again, it plays to the story, you want to make sure that you have the proper lighting or sound so that people can actually engage with your content.
But if it fits with if you're doing a piece on a roller coaster, and
obviously.
I I mean, terrible sound and so it's not these production values, is it?
No, it's just, again, you just don't want to make sure that it detracts from what you're trying to achieve with the content.
I wouldn't do the one on the roller coaster though, because you have to do quite a few takes with these things, so you could really turn yourself inside out.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, it's a good book. I've been reading the Amazon preview, so
Cool. I appreciate you checking it out.
yeah. But I really think it follows on well from your book, the first book. But I think you probably have to read this one first. Now it's even more important than getting 1 million followers.
That's typically what I say is start with hook point and then go into 1 million followers, because it sets the foundation of what you need to be successful if you want to gain followers.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks very much, Brandon. I think we covered it there. So unless you have anything else to add.
No, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to connect with you and all the listeners out there.
No worries. And thank you again for your great lessons and kickstarting me on this project.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, Brandon, I'll let you know as soon as the song's done.
Okay, cool.
All right. Have a great day.
All right, take care.
In our 3-second world, people are scrolling so fast. I had your attention, but in a moment it passed. Most people's ads aren't clever and their message gets lost. Connect with your audience to get yours across. That's why you need a hook point, a headline like a set point that reaches out and pulls your reader in. Gotta have a hook point, or you'll only disappoint yourself and your viewers and your friends. We're seeing thousands of messages every hour, every day, but stand out with a twist by changing just a small way. Like the writer who added 4 words to an old beggar's sign. It is spring, but I am blind. That's why you need a hook point, a headline like a set point that reaches out and pulls your reader in. Gotta have a hook point, or you'll only disappoint yourself and your viewers and your friends. With an image or an insight, an idea or some text, with added personality to grab their interest. Mock it up and test it, try to find the best bit, simplify the concept till you find what really works. Gotta have a hook point, a headline like a set point that reaches out and pulls your reader in. Gotta have a hook point, or you'll only disappoint yourself and your viewers and your friends. In our 3-second world, people are scrolling so fast. I had your attention, but it didn't last. Thanks for tuning in. Glad you enjoyed the show. Please share it with other people. Rate and review it on your podcast app. And search out the song on any of the major music services or download directly from podsongs.com. That's the best way to support us. Thanks to Maurizio Sarnicola and Massimino Vodza for working with me on the music, and Dori Verba, my researcher. And thanks to you, the listener. See you next time.